can proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the NetACT Executive, I would like to welcome each one of you to our 2021 NetACT AGM. This is a very unique AGM because, as you can see, we are not able to meet in person, but we are meeting using Zoom or using online platform. But we are grateful to God. We are grateful to God. As you recall, our last face-to-face AGM was in 2019. In 2019, we met at St. Paul's University in Nairobi, Kenya. And during that time, in our plans, we had planned that the following year, 2020, we'll meet in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. Our plans did not materialize because when 2020 came, it came with its own challenges. As you all know, we were introduced to this very strange virus called COVID, and it has devastated the world, including our institutions. The church has been devastated. I have never been in a situation the whole of my life where I heard that the church doors were closed because there was a disease that was bothering people. But we have seen it this past year, and it has been very, very sad. But as NetACT, we are grateful to God. We are grateful to God that in the midst of all that, in the midst of all the challenges that came because of COVID-19, God was still faithful. Barnabas Fund came up and was willing to support some of our institutions. And on behalf of NetACT, I wanted to say a big thank you to Barnabas Fund because of the support that they gave us. They gave some of our institutions last year. The funds that they gave, some of the institutions were able to use that funds to support the students, were able to use the same funds to support the lecturers so that they could receive their salaries, even in the midst of a very strange and difficult environment due to the COVID pandemic. So as we start our meeting this afternoon, I wanted us to sit back and recall and see that, as the Bible tells us, we can plan, but God is the one who establishes everything. Even though in our plans we had really wanted to meet in Addis Ababa so that we could launch our book, The African Bible Public Theology, but that never came to pass. And we are meeting today. We are still grateful to God that as a group, we can still meet and deliberate. The work of the network will continue, even in difficult times like the times we are in. So we are grateful to God for that. And so as we take the next 2 days to deliberate and talk about our, let's remember that God is still faithful. Even in very difficult situations like we are in now, God is still faithful. And let's continue to pray for the church. Let's continue to pray for the church worldwide, because the church is suffering, and there are a lot of people who are suffering. And talking about suffering, I know as NetACT institutions, we have been affected by the COVID, by the coronavirus. I don't have the statistics for all our institutions, but I know here in Malawi, we have Chancellor College, who is a member of NetACT, and they lost their principal and other senior faculty members. I also know where our vice chair, Nathan, is, the university where he is. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, he shared with us all that they lost a student, a young man, very strong and courageous, and had a lot of hope, but due to the virus, his life was cut short. And I know there could be so many others from our other institutions. And so as we start our AGM, I wanted us to pause a bit and remember those souls, but also to uplift God's church in his able hands, that the Lord will continue to encourage us even during this difficult time. Let's take a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much for that moment of silence. As we move on, I wanted to wish you all the best. In the next 2 days, as we deliberate, let's continue to commit the work of NetACT in God's hands. I know ahead of us tomorrow we'll have elections for the leaders who continue to lead the network in the next few years. Let's be prayerful about that and let's put them in prayer. Thank you very much and all the best as we deliberate. We'll now continue with our agenda as you have it in the document that you received. I'll now ask Professor Hendricks, Fraser, and Nico to guide us on administrative issues and how we deal with the agenda. Over to you, Professor Hendricks and the team.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Nico will chair. I am writing the minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, thank you so much. I would like to start just by giving some advice and requests regarding our protocols on how we do and deliberate in the meeting. So number one, please keep yourself muted at all times. It will also help us if you can switch off your video feed. If you want to participate, unmute yourself and your video feed. And then we will sort of on the screens on our side see that you want to participate. Just raise your hand or use the hand raising function. Fraser and I will monitor and we will then see whether you are, if you don't get a response, if you use the button, the hand raising function, just wave to us and we will make sure that we see you. So please, I did post, if you look at your chat box, the chat box is also a very nice tool that we can use within the meeting. If you do want to speak to some of your colleagues, you can use the chat box, and then you all know by this time that if you click there where it says everyone, you get all the other participants and you can directly send a message to them. You are most welcome to do that and have a conversation in that. We do, however, open up the meetings like this afternoon, and we'll be doing the same tomorrow. We will open up the meetings at 12:15. So if you would like to talk to some old colleagues and just catch up with what's happening with them, there's an open time of about 45 minutes where you can connect and talk and chat. And imagine yourselves having a cup of coffee at a physical meeting with one of your colleagues. So we provide that platform so you can do that as well. So please make use of that as well. Then you will see when you entered into the meeting via the link that Fraser sent, if you logged in, you will find there the agenda. There's also chat functions there on the NetACT internet portal. Fraser will help us a little bit just now after me with that, and he will explain that to you in more detail. We will be following the agenda. You will see that for this afternoon's session, we are going to break into groups. That groups has already been assigned by Fraser, so you will be again, like we just did with the devotion, you will be sent into a group and you will meet up with your colleagues in the group. You will see for our discussion this afternoon, there is already some leaders being assigned for the specific group leaders. So just the leaders, you guys will see on the agenda who you are. Just start with the conversation, let everybody introduce themselves, and we will flow into the conversation. Colleagues, due to time issues, it's very difficult to accommodate every single thing that we usually have. So we have divided the agenda into specific topics which we think is important. The 3 main reports. We will do the first one today, do the next big report tomorrow, and thereafter the third one, and then we'll do the office issues as we go along with the agenda. Very important announcement at this moment is we need to vote tomorrow afternoon when we close for a new chair and a vice chair. You need to email me or Jens your nomination. So if you want to nominate someone, you need to email that to us, because we're going to do the voting within Zoom. So we're going to put up a poll at the end of our meetings tomorrow when we move into the election section, and you will be able to vote online. But in order for us to facilitate that, we would need to have the nominations beforehand. So please, if you would like to nominate your colleagues, please send that through to us. You know your colleagues, you can do the nominations, just send it to us so that we can compile the list for tomorrow. At any time, if you have problems or issues, Fraser, myself, and Jurgens is available in the chat box, so you can email us and say, I'm struggling with this, or I'm battling with this, or I missed that. Please do not hesitate to call us. If you have our numbers, you can call us on WhatsApp. We have our phones with us. If you've got access to WhatsApp, please use the functions either on Zoom. You know that your staff can also listen in on the YouTube link. Fraser will explain that also now to us. So please feel free to participate in our AGM. We would not like to restrict your participation. We would like to encourage you to participate, although it's limited. We would love to hug one another and chat with one another, but yeah, let's make the best of the virtual space which we are in, and give each other just a virtual hug and welcoming you. I'm just going to hand over quickly to Fraser just to talk a little bit on the technical side of our meeting. Fraser, thank you. If you are that side.
Welcome everybody to this, which is you can see from the state of my beard, the amount of grey hairs and worry this has been giving me over the last few days, but everything seems to be coming together now. Just a reminder, please, if you can, rename yourselves to include your academic partner college, because at the moment I'm trying to assign everybody to regional groups, and most people I know who you are, but there are 1 or 2 who I'm not quite sure which college you're with. The other thing to say is we did ask that, if possible, that we would keep it to 1 connection per partner. That hasn't quite happened today, and we've got plenty of spare connections, so we're not going to do anything. But tomorrow, if more people are able to join and we start to reach the upper limit of our connections, we will have to be strict in terms of how many people join from each partner. Yes, the other thing, as Nico said, tomorrow we'll be voting for new new office bearers, and that will be by means of a poll. Essentially you'll get a pop-up box on your screen with a list of names for chair and a list of names for vice chair, and you get to select one. just to say, and to make it straightforward, we really need these names in by the end of today so that we can create the poll overnight and have it ready for tomorrow. Apart from that, I think Niku has covered most of the things, like keeping your microphones muted unless you're speaking, and all the other Zoom etiquette that we've all learned so much about over the past 12 months or so. Have I missed anything, Niku?
Thank you, Fraser. Fraser, if you have problems logging in, just contact Fraser. You can send him an email. That might be the best way to do that. So if your colleagues are having problems logging in, just send an email to Fraser.
Yes.
If you
everybody who can't log in can respond to Niku's comments in the meeting now.
Yeah, I see some people are asking on behalf of others, probably other colleagues. Yeah, if they can do that. Thank you, colleagues. Then we will, if it will be very good if you can have I will try to guide us onto pages where we are. So if you have a printed copy of the document, our AGM document, then I will guide you onto pages where we are going to be, and you can follow that. If you're using 2 screens or something, you can just open up your document on a second screen, and we will be working from that. Chair, I think we can proceed. Maybe I should just, if there's questions, maybe we should just allow for questions quickly and see if there is if there's a question from someone.
I'm just wondering if people need to be reminded of the qualifications for these people we're nominating, or is there where in the Constitution do we find the qualifications for the people we're nominating?
Right, thank you, Roland. Lynn, could you give us some advice?
Sorry, colleague, I don't know, is your sound also as choppy as mine?
Yes, mine is.
Okay, well, I can hear you. I can hear you quite clearly. It seems as it's more background information. Thank you, Roland, for that question. Yes, colleagues, I want to remind you that that the president and the vice president just needs to be affiliated with one of our members. So it can be from any member institution, and the nominated person should just be willing to take the responsibilities in the constitution that we have sent onto you regarding the changes that we propose to be making. You will see that there is a specific paragraphs in it that I'm just going to quickly open mine to see where that is. Okay, so you can have a look at
page 15, page 16.
Yeah, on 15 and 16 of the agenda that you got, the agenda document, 4.2, where it concerns the governance of NetACT. It talks about the governing board and the members and what the duties of the governing board is. But then also specifically 4.2.2, the NetACT Executive Committee, because this is where the president, besides for the AGMs, this is where the president and the vice president will find most of their responsibilities. So you can have a look at that, what is required in the sense of the responsibilities that are expected of the board members, the terms of the office, etc. So if you look at that and you think that you can think of a member that qualifies there, that would be a good a person to lead the network in terms of what is expected, you can nominate such a person from there. So it can be, as I said, it can be anyone from the NetACT members. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the head of an institution. It traditionally has worked out that way, but you know, as long as the rest of the board approves and are happy with that, then it can be anyone from our, it can be, for instance, say a colleague Nathan, who is not the head of his institution, but is the representative of his institution on the board. For instance, has now served for our as our vice president for some time. So I think, Nico, that is about it. So please go have a look at paragraph 4 of the Constitution, just regarding the responsibilities of the president and the vice president. Thank you.
Yes, colleagues, that is on page 15, 16, 17, up to now. Roland, does that answer your question? You can just give a thumbs up, or if that's good with you. Good.
Maybe Nico,
Chair,
maybe
if
just
there's no
guide
other questions.
Sorry, maybe Nico guide the house in terms of
No question from
myself
me.
and Nathan. I have served for 2 terms, but Nathan was the vice. Is he
Yes.
eligible to be chosen as the chair? Maybe you may need to guide the meeting, please.
Len, can you guide us on that? Maggie, I think, is not eligible again, but according to what I understand, Nathan can be elected. He is
Yes,
the vice at the moment.
Indeed, we are allowed to re-elect someone for a second term. Maggie now has done her bit excellently, and more than once over. You will remember that with COVID and with the extension and with missing an AGM in between, it was just impossible for us to, we decided that it would be better to stay with the status quo and have Maggie stay on as president until this AGM. So Nathan is since Nathan only served 1 term, he can be elected again as president. Or he can be elected as president. Either way, as president, then it would be a first term. Yep. As vice president, it would be second term. But yep. Maggie, unfortunately, we will miss her in the president's chair. I've met her there as executive director, and we've been working together now for a long time. But unfortunately, fortunately for Maggie, she's now done her bit, and she can bow out of that position with grace and with our gratitude.
Thank you, colleagues. Any more remarks, comments, Chair? Then we can move to the on our agenda. We are on page 2, colleagues. Page
Thank
2.
You very much.
We move to the second point on page 2, second point on the Constitution.
Yes. Maybe before we go to the second point, let me just remind the members that we have regional groups, and the regional groups are Northeast Africa, that is Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Democratic Republic of Congo. And then we have the West Africa, which is Nigeria. And then we have the East Africa, which is Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. And then we have Southern Africa, which is the South African investors, Namibia and Lesotho. Then we have West Africa, which is the Portuguese-speaking Mozambique, should also be included in that one. So when we break away later after our discussion on the Constitution, please see where you belong. Of course, you have already been put in the groups. But now we'll move to the conversation on the Constitution. I'll ask Ren to lead us in that conversation, please.
Thank you very much, colleague Maggie. Yes, colleagues, the whole issue regarding the Constitution and a possible change in the Constitution was to a large extent brought on by the COVID realities that we had to face. You will remember that traditionally, or since NetACT expanded to be a much broader network, we had different hubs where certain institutions form hubs to work together on individual, to work closely together on individual projects or projects within specific hubs. Now, that situation is unfortunately not tenable anymore. The reason is that, first of all, that travel has become so difficult. It is difficult to initiate say projects within the hub and have people travel and participate from different parts of the continent. So that is very difficult. Communication has been a challenge. We've been blessed with the electronic communication, and that has helped a lot. I must say, but the feeling was also at the executive level that with all the members of the executive that were represented in the executive in the form of two representatives from every institution, it was we often had a lot of problems of getting everyone online for the more run-of-the-mill meetings that we quite often need in the executive between the different AGMs. So that was also a challenge of the old system. But it's mainly because of COVID and what we realized during COVID that we do need greater independence, greater responsibility to be taken by our members, and that these responsibilities are most often linked to regional issues. So we thought it best to look at a system where we, instead of hubs, where the members are from across the continent in specific hubs, to rather work on a regional basis and see whether we cannot establish regional NetACT offices where there is a regional coordinator. And that regional coordinator can then report back to the executive and via the executive to the NetACT board, so that there are specific things that, if there are specific things that need to be discussed, that need to be looked at, specific challenges that are unique to a region, that such regional offices and regional office coordinators can run those in a conversation with the executive and then ultimately via the board, but also that the whole dynamic of regional meetings and regional AGMs that we've had last year, we found that to be a very, very successful way of working. You will remember that we had these regional meetings. We had in Nigeria, we had there at ABC, at Maggie's institution, we had in Kenya, we had these regional meetings, and that was, first of all, it was cheaper because it was closer for people to travel. In fact, it was possible to get more local members to attend those meetings that was previously possible. You would have remembered, you know, how many people we were in Limuru, for instance, how many people we were in Scott, and it was not only very expensive, but it was a lot of organization to get everybody there. Also, when we work in these regional groups, it gives the possibility that the participation from our different institutions can be bigger. So that more members of your staff can become involved. With the AGMs in the past and with the previous, there was only like one a member present. But if we can work, say, for instance, on regional meeting level, then it might be possible for more than one representative from an institution to attend these regional meetings, which makes the conversations not only much more richer, but also give representation on a regional level and participation for our members. So what we've then done is to look at the Constitution and to see how we can change it by taking away the references to the old hub system and replacing those with a system where we work with regional offices. Now, the regional offices that we can use as examples is the office that is currently in Bloemfontein, that is manned by Niku, and a planned office in West Africa that would be
it's not even inside Zoom yet.
By Professor Sander.
I saw.
Oh, sorry, there's just
You can
reminded.
continue, just interference there.
Okay, thank you. All right, so colleagues, if you can look at the addendum that you've gotten, all the changes that are suggested has been made and has been highlighted in yellow. I'm going to take you through them. I think that would be the easiest way to explain what is proposed. The first one in Article 1, you will see we just put in there a short phrase. This has got nothing.
Len?
Yes.
Just Scotty, can I just interrupt you? Let me just quickly get all the colleagues quickly onto the right page. Which, if we are moving to the Constitution now,
Oh, it's already on.
it is on page 15. Colleagues, please, Samuel, can you guys just mute there on your side? Thank you. It's the noise is quite overwhelming a little bit. Colleagues, Chair, we can, if everybody can just turn to page 15 on the Constitution. So the Constitution is it's addendum number 1. Addendum number 1, and it's on page 15 in the agenda.
Good. If we.
Thank you, Len.
Thank you. If we can then proceed. So Article 1, you will see we've added there just a short phrase. Now, since we were going to look at the Constitution anyway, the suggestion came from the executive that we do add this phrase. The reason for this is that this is in fact the de facto position of NetACT, that we acknowledge our historic roots, but that we are in fact all Christian denominations. So you know that we have members from the Pentecostal tradition, from the Orthodox tradition, from the Evangelical, the Reformed tradition, Presbyterian traditions. All these traditions have been members of our network for quite a long time. So, you know, this was never an issue. We talked about it initially when we drew up the original Constitution, and we were all happy with this as long as all the members and the traditions that they come from agree with the mission and the vision of NetACT. But what we wanted to do is we just wanted to make that clear, because we still had, questions from potential members asking them, listen, but I'm from this tradition or that tradition, can I become a member? And we often the first place where people stop, if they want to investigate NetACT and see they would want to join will be on our website, and then to look at our constitution. And therefore we thought it would be a good idea just to make this clear and have this phrase in the constitution so that it clarifies that point. So that was just, as I say, a point for clarification that was added, and that does not reflect on the main changes. If you move down a bit.
Thank you, Len. Len, if I can interrupt, Chair, maybe we should take my proposal would be that we take the proposals and that we just use each one of them. If there's a question, short question, just we can quickly answer that. And then at the end, we will adopt then the complete new constitution. Len, would that be in order with you?
That is fine, absolutely fine.
Chair, would that be okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so what I will ask then is, colleagues, is there any discussion on that, on number 1? It's on page 15. You will see it's highlighted in bold. That's the first one that Len was talking about. Is there any discussion on that while we are at this point? If there's nothing, we will move on. I don't see any hands raised, any functions. Thank you, Len. Then you can continue.
Thank you, Niku. Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, if you then just move down, Article 3, Article 1 for the rest of the article stays exactly the same. Article 2 stays the same. Article 3 stays the same. The following changes that are suggested are in Article 4 under organization and membership.
That's page 16.
Page 16, if you can move down to organization and membership, the part on membership, who the members might be, the process of application, termination of membership, all from 4.1 to 4.1.1.2 and 1.3 all stay the same. Nothing's changed there. Then 4.1.2, what is now suggested, this is where the regional offices and officers come in. So what it says here is that NetACT may establish permanent or temporary regional NetACT offices and appoint officers to those offices when, and then the requirements when there is a need for the establishment of such offices. Now, the need may be a variety. It might be that it is needed for say, a 3-year project, that an office needs to be established in a specific region. That can be a reason. It can also be because of a situation like the COVID pandemic, where a closer regional cooperation may be needed or may even be necessary to proceed with the activities of the network, but not only on the broader continent-wide scale, but at a regional level as well. When the need has been identified and motivated by the NetACT executive or any member for consideration by the NetACT board. All right, so the establishment of a NetACT office must be requested. That the route it will take will go via the NetACT executive to the NetACT board. So no new NetACT offices can be established without the approval of the NetACT board, and that is, in other words, without the approval of all of us at an AGM. Then if the facilities and necessary infrastructure exists at a member institution applying for or nominated to host a regional office. So if someone proposes a regional office to be established, then it should be situated at a partner institution, and the partner institution must agree with that, and that institution must be able to support just the infrastructure. An office must be given to the regional office coordinator with internet access, etc. We are not asking for the establishment of all these financial systems and whatever that can be negotiated or talked about in the process, but at least an office and the necessary communication, means of communication for that person to do the job of communicating with the regional members and communicating with the executive in the wider NetACT network. Then when an academic member of an institution's staff is willing to act as a regional office coordinator. So there should be a regional office coordinator. Without a coordinator, there can be no regional office, and that regional office coordinator should be part of the academic staff of an institution. So if you want to nominate someone from some institution, these are the requirements that the agreements that you will need to get from someone to run that office and to act as the regional office coordinator, and for that institution to be comfortable with hosting such an office and to see to the infrastructure that will be needed for such an office. When requests for the establishment of regional offices have been submitted via the NetACT executive to the board at an AGM and has been approved by the majority of members present. So that again is just the final okay for the establishment of any regional NetACT offices is the duty of the NetACT board. The executive cannot approve such a regional office. Good. So those are just what the regional offices are and the process of getting them established. Are there any questions regarding this, colleagues? They slipped in a typo with the NetACT executive there in point number 2, 4.1.2.2, which I have corrected so on my copy, so don't worry about that. But any questions regarding the suggestion?
Chair, we can have a small discussion on that if someone wants to reply.
So perhaps to explain this, how this happens then in practice, there has been with the NetACT public theology project, and with the rollout of the project after the publication of the African public theology book that we've now all received, there has been a feeling that that this book should be promoted in the different regions of Africa, and we should have smaller conversations around it because our context differs so much, our challenges differ so much. So the emphasis that will be placed on different aspects of public theology, different challenges in public theology will differ from region to region. It might even differ from country to country. And we also want to broaden that conversation. We don't want to speak about just African public theology just at the AGM, where we have one representative in the person of the principal of a school or the dean of a faculty present. We want our members and the staff of our members to be involved in this conversation. And we want to invite local people who aren't but who do play an important role in potentially in a country or a region, to invite them and to take part in those conversations, to ask ourselves, what can we do as institutions in cooperation with the church and with civil society to make a difference, or as the book says, to create the Africa that God wanted or wants. So we've seen this need very clearly. For instance, in Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the countries where we have the most members currently, and in fact we have quite a few members in the whole of West Africa. And you will remember when we spoke about the relationship between Christianity and Islam last year with Barnabas Fund and the Oxford Center, where they assisted us with that conference. We saw that the challenges that different regions, for instance, have with interreligious dialogue and interreligious cooperation, or just peaceful coexistence, it differs vastly from Central Africa to Western Africa, to Southern Africa or Eastern Africa. So that would be an issue that is really important and that had to be looked at. But the rest of Africa does not have, it is not as relevant as it is in West Africa, where it is often, or East Africa, where it's often an issue of life and death. Then it needs to be discussed in much more detail. We have to get many more people present and part of that discussion. So then it was thought, all right, why don't we suggest the establishment of a NetACT office in West Africa? Because we've worked very closely there with colleague Professor Sandai Agang, we thought that it would be a good idea to ask him, since he is the main editor of that publication of ours, to be a NetACT regional office coordinator, so that for the next stage in the rollout of this project, for instance, he can take the lead there and he can organize the regional meetings and the regional rollout of the dissemination of this of the material in that area. We've spoken to his seminary, and they graciously agreed to allow the time for him to do that, and to also offer their facilities where that can be done. So that is an example of one of the regional NetACT offices that we hope to establish. And I hope that explanation makes it a bit more clear on how it's to work.
Thank you, Len. Colleagues, is there any, Chair, if there's any questions on that? I'm just looking at the time. We would need to move a little bit forward.
There's a question from Bob Rice. Niall, well, he's got his hand raised anyway.
Bob, yes, please.
Yeah, just real quick. I'm new to the group, but my impression of a strength of NetACT is the Pan-African nature of this consortium, where we can learn from each other from different parts of the continent. And while there are regional specific issues, in many ways, we do share a lot of concerns as well. So what's the vision for balancing the tension between being more universal, Pan-African, versus more locally concerned issues, addressing those issues?
Thank you, Bob. If I may, Chair, if I may answer that, there will always be the Pan-African focus. That will always be there. Sometimes it might just be that a regional take on something will be more effective in a sense than doing it across Africa. But in order for these to also guard against a region taking on its own, identity and work and everything, and becoming NetACT in that area, everything that is planned or that is being done in a region must be done in cooperation with and in a negotiation with the executive and thus with the board. So no major decisions or project or whatever can be taken without the approval of the executive, which represents the whole of the NetACT, and in many cases it will indeed also require the approval of the NetACT board, of all of us. And also there will be, like from all the projects that we have, the regional offices will be expected to report back to the executive and via the executive to the board. So yearly, there will be a report from the different regions to the NetACT board, so that in a certain sense, tabs can be kept also on what is happening in the different regions. So that we are very much aware of what is going on in the different regions. The nature of the stuff that we do is often, or is most of the time, it is something that is important to all of us. So if we do something like a research project, like this, the development project or the African theology, it will be something that will be important to all of us. But often just the rollout of that might be easier to also do within regions. I was now thinking, you know, if say for instance, I remember the community development project. If there were regional offices established, it would have made it very easy, or much easier for me, who was kind of in charge of that project, to ask the regional offices to assist in identifying people that we can co-opt into the larger project, the continent-wide project. So definitely the one is not going to replace the other. There will be constant communication at the different levels, and the agenda to a very large degree will still always be determined by the NetACT board.
Thanks, Len. I've got, I will give a response now to Bob again. Jurgen had his hand raised, and then also Sas Conradi I see on my screen. Maybe Sas, Jurgen's first and then Sas.
No, I think Len answered well enough. Just put it like that. The point about the regional meetings is to get good feedback from different parts of Africa, and then if necessary, the Pan-African issues should be addressed by the annual general meetings, like the 2019 one, when we all discussed the Islamic problem or challenges that we face. That's the balance. Regional for specific input from specific areas in the continent, an annual general meeting where everything is sort of put together and where we discuss on what we as a continent should do. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Sas raised his hand. Sas?
Yes, thanks a lot, Nico. I just one question. Did you consider collaboration with other networks in establishing those offices? For example, I think it would add value to the work of Actea, for example. If they might also have a kind of a regional office in Nigeria. So have you considered that, and what are the possibilities to do that?
Thank you very much. If I may respond to that, Nico. Thank you, Sas. That's actually an excellent idea. We haven't thought of it because this is a new way of being a network, or a new element in being a network. So we will see how this develops. But that is actually quite a good idea, because the different existing networks, such as your own and that of Actea, also might have different projects or different initiatives that they use or that they launch in different areas that say somebody from the south will not know about or cannot be part of, but the members in East Africa can benefit from. So I think that is something that we should note and something that we should investigate, and that's something that we should make our regional office coordinators also aware of. If such possibilities do come up, to also take the conversation up with those networks and with the executive, and then via the executive with the board, to see how our institutions can benefit from such other regional networks. And I was just now thinking, for instance, the work that Tier Fund has been doing, for instance, in Angola, Sas, If there's something like that for the Portuguese-speaking members that they might benefit from and where they might make a contribution, that is obviously something we would like to promote, but it's not something that necessarily that the whole of the
but we said we are to take 400, but we don't have a place to store it.
Want to be part of. So in that sense, also the regional offices can play a very important role to make use of such opportunities within a region where such a network exists and where they can benefit or contribute to it. Thank you very much for that comment.
Thank you. Godwin, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I do enjoy the discussion, but the issue of having a region office is very, very important because it makes it to be closer to the people. For instance, just like when we had a meeting in Igbaja 2019, all of us from West Africa, we were able to attend the meeting. And of course, you can remember the difficulty you people went through. You couldn't attend the meeting from South Africa, and other people could not attend it from other African countries. And it was quite a difficult task. So it is a good suggestion if we can treat it in such a way that we can have meetings based on region, whereby needs of such region can be attended to effectively. I think it's a very good suggestion for us to do that. Where the directorate, either from South Africa, can control in terms of accountability and so on and so forth, report and also auditing can be forwarded to the regional office for proper accountability. I think it's a good suggestion for us to carry it out. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Godwin.
Thank you, Godwin.
Colleagues, is there any other responses?
There's a text question from Dr. Santino. His question is, how will the regional offices get finances to operate?
All right, so like in all cases with all projects in NetACT, is everything we do is dependent on finances. So it might be that there is, say for instance, Tier Fund launches a project and sorry, Sas, I'm using you again, launches a project in Angola, and they want to invite the Portuguese-speaking members of NetACT as a block to also participate in this project. Then obviously one has to ask, whether funding of this will be available and, what the costs will be. Unfortunately, we do not have funding currently to fund regional projects. We only have funding for the bigger projects, and then for the regional forms or the regional ways in which that would roll out. For instance, now with the public theology thing, if we want to have these regional conferences on public theology, because we think that this is an excellent way also to test this model, and for that the NetACT executive, the main office, the board will make finances available. So there will always be negotiations involved, and unfortunately it won't be, just a blank slate, to start projects and meetings and conferences and whatever. It will always be dependent on the financial stuff. But but it's also part of giving our institutions in their regional forms also a bit of independence. That if you can manage to get funding for a conference, a regional conference, then we can support it in other ways, perhaps from the central office and from the board side. But always, you know, the financial stuff needs to be in place in order to do all of our activities, in fact. You know, but it's also, say for instance, there is a possibility for bursaries, and we get a call from some donor that say they make available 20 bursaries, just for the sake of argument. Then it will be much easier for the central office to tell the regional offices, look, can you please make people aware of this opportunity? Can you please get the applications in from your region, from the institutions in your region, because it's often very, very difficult. And Fraser will know what I'm talking about, because he constantly needed in the past couple of years information from all the institutions on their library resources, on their IT. And if one has somebody that is a regional office coordinator, you know, asking the assistance of that coordinator to get that information within his own region with the people that he works with on a more regular basis, and then that he knows better than, say, for instance, somebody who's a project coordinator in the central office. It's going to make things much more easier, and I think much more effective in the end for all of us.
Thank you, Len. Colleagues, maybe if I can just come in here from the office side to answer that question very shortly. As we've been operating over the years, those of you who have been with us a long time, we don't have any money. There's no big funding coming in. It works on projects. So even the offices, all of us are volunteers. We volunteer our organizations, we volunteer our institutions, and that's, I think, is the dynamics of the network. And I think what Bob said earlier is very, very important. We need to pay very careful attention to that. Is the whole Pan-African idea that is NetACT, that we do function Pan-Africanly, and that's why we all do our part. So if you have a regional office, offer the services of your if you're thinking of that, offer the services of your institution. We can't remunerate people and stuff, but that's what we do. We contribute to the Pan-African being together of us, and I think that's sort of the dynamics of NetACT. Chair, I think we need to move on. If I see more or less everybody's in agreement with that. Chair, if it's okay with you, we can move to number on our agenda, still on the Constitution. We move to number 4, to governance. It should actually be number 5, sorry.
Yeah.
It should be number 5. The numbering is not in order there, but just it should be number 5.
It's actually it's all under Article 4, organization and membership, and then the governance.
4.2. Sorry, my fault. 4.2 governance.
Regarding governance, we just added there 2 points to the governing board. Now that is the whole of all of us, the governing board, the ones that make the major decisions once a year at our AGMs. We just added there that you know that we've always had as a member of the governing board a representative of the World Communion of Reformed Churches, because of our history with them and because of the importance for us to also have a stable and a long-standing link with them. But we also wanted to add there that we need a representative of the NetACT donor community as a member of the governing board with full voting rights. Okay, so it might be, you will know that all our associate members, they are associate members and they are welcome on our AGMs, but they do not have voting rights. But I do think, and we've seen it become more and more important how dependent we are on our community, on our donor community. So I think, you know, if one of those 50 or 55 votes that count for our major decisions come from a representative of our broader donor community and associates, then that would be also that would be important, and it would also be a sign of recognition of the importance of our donors. And then any 2 additional individuals may be co-opted by the board. All right. So if there is somebody for some reason that we would like to become part of our board, of that big 50 plus decision making board, that we do in the constitution leave the room for that, maximum of 2 only, and this needs to be approved, of course, by the NetACT board. Colleagues, if that is in order, any questions regarding that point? All right, are we clear, Nico?
I don't see any hands. It seems good. Thank you, Len. Next one. We
Right.
are moving then to page 18.
Yes, 4.2.5. The NetACT regional office coordinators, just with regards to the duties, the titles and the duties of the different, you will see above it is the duties are the duties of the NetACT executive director, of the portfolio managers and the project coordinators, such as Jurgens and Niku and Fraser and Sunday. But then we, of course, needed to put in here also the duties of the regional office coordinators. Quickly, they are appointed for renewable periods of 1 to 5 years, depending on the need. As I said, this can be a temporary thing, or this can be more long-term. It depends on the reasons given for the establishment of this office. They are responsible for coordinating and or initiating regional specific projects and events as determined from time to time in consultation with the governing board and or the NetACT executive. So there is ample room for regional specific projects and events, but there is the oversight and the approval also of the governing board or the NetACT executive is also needed for that. Regional office coordinators may recruit voluntary assistance of members of students served by the regional office. So say, for instance, we have the Kongoro regional office where Sunday is, then he can ask members from TCNN and from UGoldie and wherever in Nigeria, can you also help with this project or in the organizing of this event or this conference or whatever. The regional officers and coordinators are appointed by the governing board, that is us, upon the recommendation by the NetACT executive and upon consultation with the institution that will host the regional office and to which the regional office coordinator is affiliated. That was said above in an earlier paragraph. Regional office coordinators are volunteers, non-remunerated officials, as are all the officials of NetACT. We run on voluntary petroleum in NetACT. And then finally, regional office coordinators report to the governing board via the NetACT ED and executive committees. So there will be expected yearly reports after, say, a conference or a project has been completed. A report will be expected to be submitted to the executive, and that will then be also placed on the agenda for the next annual AGM for the rest of the board to approve and to take note of. Yes, and then just again something regarding NetACT offices where the different offices are explained, and then just that one of these the faces of NetACT offices, if you will be that of the regional offices. If there is any questions regarding that, I would try to answer, but that in short is what we want to put to the board for approval. As always, the Constitution is a working document. It can
Quantos minutos de intervalo, professor? Quantos minutos?
Be changed.
Por favor.
If it does not, if this process, if this way of working does not work, we can always change it again. We can improve it. We can add more policies or whatever.
Meia hora, 40 minutos.
whether we can have such a system.
Thank you, colleagues. Any replies, any comments on that one before we propose all the amendments together?
Tá certo, obrigado. Vamos almoçar e voltar.
Sorry, the colleagues from Angola keeps on coming back to us, but I think we've got them sorted out now.
They have to share the information
yes,
across their network.
Yes, Kruger is helping there. Colleagues, Chair, if we can move now to propose, this is the proposals.
Então, bom apetite para o almoço.
We will get, Fraser, will you put up for us the poll? We're going to vote now on it. We can do that by a yes or a no.
Just remind colleagues that where there are several of you from one partner, we can only count one vote from each partner. So we'll take a minute just to check the votes once the poll.
Colleagues, there it is on the screen. We will give it another few seconds. Not all of us will be voting because we are office bearers. Just make sure that you just click there.
Tá, já a pastora Adelaide votou.
Colleagues, I think that's all of us.
Okay, I'm going to click end polling in a few seconds.
Sim, ela acha que podemos votar agora.
Kruger, if you can ask just Adelaide and her team just to not switch on their to switch on their audio. Thank you.
Okay,
colleagues,
everybody, that's 100%. Everybody who voted for the amendments to the Constitution. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Chair, then we can move back again to our agenda.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Len, for leading that in the constitutional change. Colleagues, we will now continue with the agenda. We now go back to page 2 on sections 1 to 7. But this is just for you to take note. I'll just pause for a minute that you go through it. If anyone has a question on anything, they can raise it. If not, then we'll move on to section 2. Thank you. Any comments or questions from 1.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 up to 0.7? Comments or questions? Thank you very much. If not, let's move on. We move to the 3 main reports. I'll ask Professor Hendricks to lead us in this, but he is taking notes. Nico, do you want to lead on his behalf?
Yes, we will, between the two of us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay,
Jurgens, if you can just switch on there from your side. Colleagues, what we will be doing now is we'll be going into a discussion, a regional discussion. You will see that there's already leaders assigned. In the regions, Jurgens will quickly give us a short introduction onto this next discussion which we're going to have. You will be assigned into groups. There is leaders preliminary assigned to that groups. I just see that I don't think Professor Nell is in the meeting. If I can ask Professor Letsosa to help us with that discussion of the South African group. Professor, if you can just give me an indication that that would be okay with you. I see you are in the meeting. If you can just give me a thumbs up. Professor Antoine.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Jurgens, over to you. Just give us a short introduction onto what we are envisioning in this next section and how we will proceed with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. The first part just deals with the work that we've actually already completed, the work on theology and development. Those articles and discussions we had previously will be published in our journal. So I think that's sorted out. But I really think the heart and soul of the network is linked to this project called African Public Theology, and the book that we all took part in publishing. We would have had in 220 regional meetings to discuss how we are going to implement this. The cry of our continent is about doing something about corruption and bad leadership. And the book is in a sense our first step in answering that question. Now the book has 3 parts. The first part is about what public theology means, sort of in the academic literature, but also in practice, and the biblical foundation of public theology. And then it is simply to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. That's what it is about. And all of us agree Africa needs some salt, Africa needs some light. So our challenge is, how are we going to play a role to make a bigger impact that Christ, that the triune God, that we as his disciples and children can make a bigger impact on our continent. And the continent and its peoples really, really need it. So the next sort of 20 chapters in the book then looked at specific areas of life, like the economy, like science, like the media, like this whole phenomenon of migration and people without that's simply left somewhere or need to flee their own countries and so on. The land issues, you can see the 20 chapters. And then the last part of the book deals with what are we going to do? Now, the previous meeting in 2018 in Wellington and 2019 in Nairobi said, okay, we must go and do something. We must first start by training in our students how to make a difference, how to involve Christians in all walks of life, on congregational level, in public life, to be the salt and to be the light. We planned to start organizing that regionally, and because of the COVID pandemic, we couldn't. Now the next discussion, and you will see we are going to spend most of the afternoon on that, will be in our regions to start talking about what are we going to do about this, about the message of the book, how we are going to implement it. We can deal with it on different levels. We can talk about, how we are going to make it part and parcel of the curriculum of our theological schools. But after that, how are we at the church and all the other organizations like ACTA and Tearfund and the All Africa Council of Churches and whoever and who else, we must sort of act together or get cooperation to address the really, really bad issues that are affecting the lives of so many people in our continent. So I think as executive, we decided this will be the main topic of discussion this afternoon, that in each region you will start discussing how are we going to apply the message of this book in our region. One can take it country by country. I mean, West Africa will deal with Nigeria because there are 13 or 14 institutions from Nigeria. But then Southern Africa, Western Africa, or Eastern Africa, etc., talk about this challenge in general, but then try to start envisaging how you are going to apply it. How are you going to reach out to farmers, to teachers, to business people, to media people, to people in the arts, etc., to become salt and earth to address corruption and leadership issues. That is then the topic of this discussion now. And after the discussion, and Nico will organize that, you will see that we will have report back sessions from the different regions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jurgens. Colleagues, let's do the arrangement as follows. We are going to break into the groups now. I'm looking at the time. It is, according to our program, just half an hour, and I've got a suspicion that that's a little bit too short. Fraser, I think what we should do is we keep open. Every group can discuss how they want to break for tea. Then we come back into the main meeting on Central Africa time. It will be just after 4, say 16:15. We will bring everybody back into the group. Then each of the groups can arrange their own time slot for tea break. You keep open, you keep connected, you stay online, you can just break and then come back, arrange that with themselves, and we will be all rejoining you at 16:15 Central Africa time. That gives us an hour and 15 minutes to discuss and to break for tea and then come back. Yes,
maybe, Nico, I should say that start planning regional meetings to address the issues of the book and all other NetACT agenda items, of course. But the next regional meetings will discuss a few main issues. But this is the most important one. So start talking about all the logistics of a regional meeting, whether you want to meet in person or are you going to do it via Zoom or something like that. I think most regions like Nigeria will most probably decide to meet literally like they did in Igbaja in 2019. Look at the logistics too of how you want to organize your region.
Yeah, and then the focus is, Jurgen, just to add to you, is then how are we launching the book and how are we getting the message into Africa? And remember Bob's remark, the Pan-African, and this should be a Pan-African movement. African public theology is a Pan-African movement in your regions. How do we get that going? Fraser, thank you. Colleagues, we will be now joining the smaller groups, the regional groups. The leaders are there. Professor Antua will take for us just the lead in the Southern African group. Thank you very much.
And just to say, for anybody who's here with as an associate member, I've just scattered you randomly across the groups.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's important. All the associate members, our donor community guys who are joining us, you will be just randomly allocated to a group. You can just join the conversation there. Thank you, Fraser. If you can put us into the groups.
Okay, here we go.